What if there was a podcast that did it all? Sports, politics, world events. Well, that's what we've got. You're listening to C&C Talks.
Hello, I'm Colin.
And I'm Charlie.
And welcome to episode 4 of the C&C Talks podcast.
Just a reminder, we release every Tuesday and we talk about politics, world events, and sports.
And we tape a day early, so as of the taping, it is Monday, May 23rd, 2022 at about 12 p.m. Pacific time. So any event that happened afterwards, we will not be discussing on here.
So
let's get into it.
Politics, shall we?
Yeah, primary results out of several states that held their elections on Tuesday.
I think we should start with Pennsylvania. So in the Senate race, John Fetterman wins the Democratic primary. He is the lieutenant governor of Pennsylvania, and his politics are generally progressive. He has gained a lot of attention due to his pushback on Trump's claims of election fraud in 2020. And he was
also,
in the news last week.
Well, apart from just winning his primary, he unfortunately suffered a stroke. He was just released from the hospital. We are, of course, wishing for the best for him. And now in the Republican side, their primary is going into a recount between Dr. Oz and David McCormick. Charlie, let's get some more information on them.
So Dr. Oz is a TV doctor, and he is endorsed by Donald Trump, and he is also not actually from Pennsylvania. David McCormick, on the other hand, is a former hedge fund CEO. So why is this election in 2022? Why are these midterms so important?
Yeah, well, obviously the Senate and the House are both really tight. It's going to tell a lot on what President Biden can get done in his second half of his presidency. Also, Dr. Oz and David McCormick currently at about 31% of the vote each. Dr. Oz, the Trump-endorsed candidate, that's not necessarily a great look for Trump, and I think what you'll see in these elections is a very mixed result for Trump-endorsed candidates. In the general election, it's going to be between John Fetterman and obviously the winner of the Oz-McCormick runoff. It will be crucial to determining Senate control. Senate is currently split at 50-50, and the Republican who currently occupies this seat, Pat Toomey, is retiring.
And in the gubernatorial race, Josh Shapiro won the Democratic primary, and he is Pennsylvania's Attorney General.
And a very popular figure in the state.
And Doug Mastriano won the Republican primary. He is a state senator, and he is on the far right. He is also a QAnon conspiracy theorist. Can we get more on what exactly QAnon is?
Yeah, so it's just this crazy conspiracy that states that the Democrats are a bunch of cannibalistic pedophiles, and that Trump will be reinstated as president. They think that JFK Jr. is going to come back to life. It's a lot of crazy nonsense that came really out of nowhere, but it's unfortunately become more mainstream recently.
I don't know how they're coming up with these, but
yeah, it's crazy, but again, becoming more mainstream, and it's dangerous. He's also made many Islamophobic social media posts, and Mastriano also attempted to overturn the 2020 election by claiming fraud and setting up a hearing with Pennsylvania State Senate as a state senator with Trump's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani. He also was one of the organizers of the January 6th Capitol insurrection. So if elected, you would have someone who tried to overthrow democracy in charge of certifying the results of the Pennsylvania 2024 presidential election.
And as for the general election in Pennsylvania, Shapiro against Mastriano, Shapiro is leading by 8 points. And this Shapiro is in the Democrats in that election because Democratic incumbent Tom Wolf is term limited and retired.
Now let's move on to Kentucky now, Charlie.
In the Kentucky state race, Charles Booker won the Democratic primary. He's a former member of the House of Representatives.
The Kentucky House of Representatives, not the
Kentucky
US
House of Representatives, not the U.S. House. And Rand Paul won the Republican primary. He is the incumbent, and he is among the most far-right members of the Senate. He also opposed an anti-lynching bill. And in this general election, Paul is the clear front runner.
As much as that says about the people of Kentucky, the fact that they would choose somebody who seems to, through his actions, support lynching. or at least support it not being a federal crime.
Yeah, their chicken's pretty good though.
Let's move on to North Carolina. Madison Cawthorn lost the House Republican primary in the 11th District of North Carolina to Chuck Edwards, a state senator. Let's get some more on Cawthorn, because I know we talked about him in depth a couple weeks ago.
We did talk about him a few weeks ago. Just a reminder, he has claimed that the Republicans, certain Republicans have had secret cocaine orgies, which has forced a lot of the Republican Party to abandon him, which is one of the main reasons that he lost in North Carolina. He also brought a loaded gun to an airport, not once but twice.
Yeah.
Among many other scandals.
Yeah, there's a bunch of videos of him being crass. It's worth noting that Trump did endorse him, although lots of other Republicans tried to stay as far away as possible from him. In the Senate race in North Carolina, Sherry Beasley has won the Democratic primary. She is the former Chief Justice of the North Carolina Supreme Court. Whereas Ted Budd has won the Republican primary. He's a U.S. congressman who objected to the 2020 election results immediately after the Capitol riots. He was endorsed by Donald Trump.
And in the general election between Budd and Beasley, it again crucial for the Senate control. If Beasley wins, the Democrats will almost certainly keep control of the Senate, and that would flip that seat.
Yeah, I would flip that seat. The current incumbent is Richard Burr, who's announced that he's retiring. I believe that he is a two-term senator. He's been in there for 12 years now. But in my opinion, at least, we'll start the race with a slight advantage.
Which would be North Carolina?
Yeah.
Okay. And Idaho also had their Senate race. Roth won the Democratic primary.
David Roth, yep.
He has worked in politics since 2006, but he has never held elected office. And I'm going to need help with his name because I don't want to mispronounce it. So, how do you pronounce the Republican winner?
Mike Crapo.
Okay,
do not pronounce
Crapo.
it the other way.
It's Crapo, okay.
He's the incumbent senator there. He's also the clear favorite to win that race because Idaho is just not a really competitive state for Democrats.
And what about the gubernatorial race?
Yeah, so Stephen Haidt has won the Democratic primary there. He didn't have a significant primary challenger. He's actually an ESL teacher at a prison. Brad Little won the Republican primary. He is the incumbent governor. He is somewhat more moderate, actually, and he faced a challenge from the far-right lieutenant governor of the state, Janice Begichin. That Little, again, will almost certainly win that general election just because it's Idaho, not a Democratic state at all.
And in Oregon, Ron Wyden won.
Wyden,
okay, thank you. Won the Democratic nomination, and he is the incumbent. He is the chairman of a very powerful Senate Finance Committee, and the Republican primary is currently too close to call, and it's between Joe Ray Perkins and Darren Harbick.
Yeah.
Alright, so can we get some more on that, Colin?
Yeah, so Joe Ray Perkins is a QAnon supporter, and Darren Harbick served on the school district board. More moderate, I would say, and I think that a really common theme that you're seeing in these Republican primary races is it's between a far-right Trump person and a more moderate person. And it's really interesting to see what direction the Republican Party picks.
So who do you think will win this election? Not only in the Republican primary, but who will win the general election?
Yeah, well, Ron Wyden it would be very hard to beat him. It's a very Democratic state, Oregon is. And it's realistically, the Republican primary does not matter that much. It's just interesting to see the direction that party chooses to go. Let's look at that
gubernatorial race.
Yeah, Tina Kotek has won the Democratic nomination. She's a former state representative. The GOP primary, again, too close to call. Christine Drazan and Bob Tiernan. Drazan is the minority leader of the Oregon State House, and Bob Tiernan, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, is the former chair of the Oregon Republican Party. Tina Kotek will probably win that general election. Just, again, it's Oregon, Democratic state. The incumbent, Kate Brown, is term limited. She's been there a couple terms.
And here are the primaries for today. Georgia, in the Senate race, Raphael Warnock will almost certainly win the Democratic primary. He is the incumbent. And Herschel Walker will almost certainly win the Republican primary. He is a former football player and has been accused of domestic violence.
Yeah, he actually, I believe, held a gun up to his wife's head, said, I'm going to shoot your brains out. And I think that what I just said was a nice way of saying it because we're trying to keep it clean here.
Okay. And in the gubernatorial race, Stacey Abrams will almost certainly win the Democratic primary. She's a voting rights activist and largely responsible for the Democrats winning the 2 Senate seats in Georgia, which helped the Democrats retake the Senate last year.
Yeah, she has done a great job both advocating for voting rights and also just leading a massive operation on the ground in Georgia, registering people. But I think that what's really interesting in this gubernatorial race is the Republican nomination, where Brian Kemp, the incumbent governor, who is seen as not Trumpy enough because he didn't do the illegal thing and then decertify the 2020 election, is being primaried by David Perdue, the former senator who has gone along with Trump's election lies. However, it's not looking good for Perdue. Kemp currently leads Perdue in the polls by 32 points.
Wow, that's quite a lot.
That's a very, very large margin. What other states have primaries today, Charlie?
Texas is having theirs, as well as Alabama and Arkansas.
Yeah, and Texas is actually the runoffs there. They had their primaries back in March. It's primary runoff. If you don't get 50% of the vote, then the top 2 candidates go to a runoff.
And we also have some more news on Elon Musk. He's been in the news a lot lately. Colin, could we get some more on that, please?
Yeah, so he's, of course, currently trying to purchase Twitter. He's said that sale is on hold. The Twitter board's trying to get it through. But he's been in the news for a couple other reasons. Also, he donated to the Republican National Committee the day after the January 6th insurrection,
Really?
which they helped. Well, yeah, I don't see why we should be that surprised, though, given some of his political views that he's expressed recently. But he also has a major sex scandal. He's allegedly paid $250,000 to a flight attendant to keep quiet about him asking her for sex.
This was reported by Insider, and Musk has disputed the reporting and has called it a politically motivated hit piece. So, could we get a little bit more on what happened, Colin?
Yeah, so there's a flight attendant for SpaceX's corporate fleet, and the money, the $250,000, actually came from SpaceX. Elon did not personally
But it
pay
is
that.
his company.
It is his company, but still, maybe some legal issues there.
There might be.
I mean, there's also some legal issues with paying for sex, which is apparently what happened. The flight attendant was asked to give Musk a massage, and during the massage, he exposed his genitals, and then he offered to buy her a horse in exchange for sex, which very much sounds like soliciting prostitution. The horse, she is apparently a horse lover. She rides horses. Elon Musk also, his top investor in the deal to buy Twitter, logged on to Zoom calls in November of 2020 to help plan the overthrowing of the 2020 election. So, not some great stuff going on there for Elon Musk.
And in the House this week, the Republicans have attempted to shoot down 4 different bills this week. The bills are money to address the baby formula shortage, which was voted no on by 192 Republicans. The bill to ensure that families in need can buy baby formula was voted no by 9 Republicans. The bill to crack down on gas price gouging was voted no by every Republican. And domestic terrorism prevention was voted no by 203 Republicans.
Which is all of them but one. And all of them very much common sense bills. None had any Democratic opposition. And they all passed the House. Most of them, if not all of them, will likely stall in the Senate. All of them would solve problems that the Republicans have been blaming Biden for, but they voted no on all of them, Charlie.
So why? If these are the issues that they have with the current political administration, then why aren't they helping these bills along to fix the problems that they've said are happening?
Well, that's a very good question, and that's part of the problem about the Republican Party, is that they're not really trying to govern for the people. They're just complaining so that they have something to run on, because they honestly, by the looks of it, want the country to be in as bad of a place as possible.
Which will help them win.
Which will definitely help them win. Now let's move on to the January 6th investigation.
Yes. Republican Congressman Barry Loudermilk gave tours of the Capitol on January 5th, the day before the insurrection, which could explain how the rioters knew their way around the building so easily the day after. Bill Barr, the former Attorney General, is likely to cooperate with the January 6th committee. He was forced to resign with about a month left in the Trump administration.
Yeah, and Ginny Thomas has pressured Arizona lawmakers to choose Trump electors and to decide the Arizona election results shortly after the 2020 election. Ginny Thomas is the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, and Clarence Thomas refused to recuse himself from cases regarding the election or insurrection, some real ethical problems there.
And Rudy Giuliani also testified to the January 6th committee. He testified for 9 hours, which is an incredibly long time.
Yeah, it was remotely. It was after some problems, to say the least, in convincing him to testify, but he ultimately did. All right, now let's move on to the Russia-Ukraine war. What are the latest updates there, Charlie?
The U.S. re-raised their flag at the U.S. Embassy in Kyiv.
That's a big deal.
Yes, the embassy is now back open. It was closed when the Russian invasion began because the U.S. was concerned that the Russian forces would sweep in and take the city and endanger American diplomats. In other news, Congress has passed a $40 billion Ukraine aid package. Both military and humanitarian aid are in this package. It passed 86-11 in the Senate, and all no votes were Republican. The Russians managed to capture the city of Mariupol. Also, Sweden and Finland have asked to join NATO.
It's official now that they're asking, yep.
Which has been opposed by Turkey. And I believe that's because Sweden has a Kurdistani party?
Yeah, it's something like that. It's complicated. They're working out a deal because it does need consent from all 30 NATO countries in order for Finland and Sweden to join. The U.S. does support the move, and on Thursday, Biden met with the leaders of Finland and Sweden at the White House.
And Turkey is the only country currently opposing this?
That has come out publicly in opposition, yes. All right, now let's move on to sports and some very, very good news actually with the U.S. soccer, Charlie. They have an equal pay deal now for men and women.
Yes, indeed they do. This will equalize FIFA prize money, and the U.S. is also the first country to do this.
Yep.
And in the English Premier League, Manchester City won the title, and it's their 4th title in 5 years.
That's very impressive. Liverpool won one a couple years ago. That was the COVID season.
They scored 3 goals in the last 15 minutes to win the game and the title. Liverpool finished as runner-up by 1 point. So those 15 goals in the last 15 minutes, one Man City.
3 goals.
3 goals in the last 15 minutes, won.
Yeah, an incredibly exciting title race came down to really the last minute.
Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea, and Tottenham will go to next year's Champions League.
Yeah, the UEFA Champions League. And Norwich City, Watford, and Burnley have been relegated down to the English League Championship.
And in the NBA Conference Finals, the Heat lead the Eastern Conference Finals over Boston Celtics 2-1.
Yep.
Both games 1 and 2 were blowouts in either direction, with the Heat winning game 1 and the Celtics winning game 2.
Yep.
Game 3 was actually incredibly close, but was won by the Heat. And game 4 was in Boston on Monday night.
Yeah, we do not have that result to share with you because we're taping this, again, Monday afternoon, Game 5, tomorrow night in Miami. The Golden State Warriors lead the Western Conference Finals 3-0 over the Dallas Mavericks. That's exciting for me.
Yes, and you dunked on me
I dunked on you. You thought that the Mavericks were going to take Game 1.
That's true.
They won Game 1 by 25 points. And they staged an amazing comeback in Game 2. Game 3, that one was tight, but the Warriors did end up going that way. Game 4 tonight in Dallas.
They're getting a sweep, aren't they?
I hope so. They better. That would be exciting. The PGA Championship, yeah, that was this past weekend. Justin Thomas won his second major win, both at the PGA Championship. First one, 2017. He staged a big comeback on Sunday and won in a playoff hole with, forgive me if I mispronounce the name, Will Zalatoris. Tiger Woods withdrew from round 3 on Saturday. So here's some notable players that actually missed the cut, didn't even play the weekend. Daniel Berger, Zack Johnson, Patrick Cantlay, Sergio Garcia, Dustin Johnson, and others. But maybe the most notable name was Scottie Scheffler, who won the Masters last month. Hopefully he can get that back on track next month.
Something that I don't know if a lot of people care about, but, Colin got his little Warriors thing, so I wanted a little segment for myself. The Formula One Spanish Grand Prix was last weekend on Sunday. Charles Leclerc for Ferrari was in the lead. He had a 30-second lead when an engine failure knocked him out of the race. Max Verstappen for Red Bull took the win and now leads the Drivers' Championship and gave his team Red Bull the lead in the Constructors. His teammate Sergio Perez took second, and George Russell for Mercedes took third. Just a brief explanation on how the racing series works is there are 10 teams with 2 drivers each. There's 20 total, and the top 10 get points ranging from first with 25 to 10th with 1. I really recommend that you watch it if you don't already. But this is just a little segment that I wanted to do. So let's get Colin back in here. We're out of time for this episode.
Yeah.
I just wanted to thank our whole team, Morris, our producer, Drake, our co-writer, and Zack, our co-producer. If you have any questions, submit them at anchor.fm/CC Talks.
Yep, we have episodes every Tuesday, so make sure to subscribe. However, next week's show, it will actually come out on Wednesday, June 1st. No show on the 31st, the Memorial Day. We can't tape Monday, but it's going to be a great show, including we're going to have some bloopers for you guys. Thanks
and
so much
boy,
for
there's
listening.
a lot of bloopers.
There are a lot of bloopers. I'm Colin.
And I'm Charlie.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.